And then I will. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Kathy Wesley, and I'm part of the Columbus Karma Take-Some Choling Tibetan Buddhist Center. And thank you very much for being part of our evening with Lama Tsultrim Yeshe this evening. Lama Tsultrim Yeshe has graciously agreed to give us a teaching on liberating oneself through self-reflection. And so we're looking forward to hearing what he has to say on the topic. Before we start, I'd like to say a few things because Lama Tsultrim Yeshe, give a little background on him, has been a student of Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, who was the founding abbot of Karma Triana Dharma Chakra in Woodstock, New York. Lama Tsultrim Yeshe became a Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche student in 1989. He completed the first traditional Tibetan 3-year retreat at the Karme Ling Retreat Center in Delhi, New York, which was led by Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche. Upon finishing retreat in 1996, he received the title of Llama, which means teacher. He received a novice monk vows from His Eminence Taisita Rinpoche in 1994 and full ordination from Trungpa Rinpoche in 2008. He is a retired prison chaplain and also taught sociology at the university level. He lives in Wisconsin, where he is the director of the Hay River Karma Take-Some Choling and teaches at Dharma centers throughout North America. So I thank Lama Tsultrim Yeshe for being with us this evening, and I ask that he turn the wheel of Dharma for the benefit of sentient beings. So thank you, Lama.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Lama Kathy. And I would like to start out with doing the Lama Rinpoche supplication. So if that can be brought up to the screen.
Caitlin, I thought I could do it, but I'm disabled from doing it. I'll post you the link again, sorry. Here it is.
Does that work?
That works for me, and I think I'm seeing the screen that everybody else is seeing.
All right, wonderful.
I'm going to have to enlarge it a little bit or maybe get my face closer to it. There we go. Let me see. I guess now you can't see me when I get it where I can see it. Lama Rinpoche La Solwa Dep, Dakshin Loyi Tongwar Jinji Lop, Gome Gyula Kewar Jinje Lop, Chomen Namtok Gakpar Jinje Lop, Rangsam Keme Tokpar Jinje Lop, Trolpa Rangsar Jiwar Jinji Lop, Nangsi Chokur Tokpar Jinje Lop. Okay, now you can go back to me, and I'll get this where you can see me better. And the reason why I said that is that actually tonight, what I would like to talk about is that prayer. And the reason is that he is because of him that Lama Kathy came to Buddhism, and it is because of Lama Kathy and others that the Columbus Center was started. And Rinpoche was very interested in the development of the Columbus Center. And after the fire, he was very, very interested and helpful in guidance and also fundraising. And of course, this is a fundraising talk. And I was asked about a place where people can make a donation to me, people that attend this program. And of course, what I want to do is any donation or offering that you wanted to give to me, give it to the Columbus Center for their building fund. because I too agree with Rinpoche. If he feels that it's very important, I feel it's very important, and we'll try to encourage other people to help Rinpoche's vision come to fruition. And it's really heartwarming to know that the construction is moving along, and that at some point, probably this year, you'll be doing programs and services inside the building, because COVID will have been, if not conquered, at least its impact greatly diminished through vaccines. So with that introduction, I am basing this teaching on one that Tai Situ Rinpoche gave, and it's in his book, Ground, Path, and Fruition. This is in, I believe it's the first chapter, and it's in the section called Devotion. Oh, there is one more thing that I wanted to say about Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche before beginning in the talk. And of course, the talk is about devotion. So in a way, this is pertinent to the talk. And this is that I asked in an interview Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche who I should go to when he is gone. And he said that, and this is a direct quote, His Holiness the Karmapa will send somebody and he will be much better than me, end quote. Now, I wanted to argue with him about there could be someone out there better than him, but I did remember that it's not good to argue with your Llama, and so I did not argue with him. But what I have come to realize recently is that the Karmapa has already sent. We have two Khenpos there already, Khenpo Ujin and Khenpo Tenkyong, and they are both very good. They're also very different. And we have Lama Karma. We have Lama Tendrup. We have Lama Sanjay, who so far has been primarily translating, but he has spent many, many, many years studying the Dharma, and I believe he has an education up to Khenpo. And so the Karmapa has already sent all of these great teachers to KTD. And so it's not like we are lacking. So on that note, it's just good to remember the resources that we have at KTD, and which now we use through Zoom, but in the near future will be unlocked and we will physically be able to be present at KTD. Now, there are two elements of devotion that Tai Situ Rinpoche mentions. First is confidence, and the other is wanting to become like your Dharma master. And this confidence, it depends on, you might say, which level you are at. If you are on the foundation vehicle level, then it is confidence in our Buddha nature. And if we're on Mahayana, it is confidence in bodhicitta, which is the wish I wish to become a Buddha and show all sentient beings how to become Buddhas. That is how Taisitu Rinpoche defines bodhicitta. So it is confidence in our own Buddha nature, and then building on that, this confidence that I can become a Buddha, and I want to be able to do that so I can show all sentient beings how to become Buddhas. Now, we may want to alleviate temporary suffering in beings, but we have to keep our eyes on the destination, which is to become enlightened, where we will be able to benefit beings the most. So it takes confidence to say or think this and then be motivated by it. So it's important to realize that we have accumulated karma through countless lifetimes and have very strong habitual patterns. And as a result, it's very difficult to keep focused on bodhicitta, keep focused on our Buddha nature, and keep focused on our practice. And of course, to avoid non-virtue. And on top of that, we have to avoid our motivation becoming ambitious and egotistical. So he kind of sums it up by saying, quote, knowing this, having faith in this is the basis of devotion. The second one, wanting to become like your Dharma master, in this case, Khenpo Karta Rinpoche, or becoming like His Holiness the Karmapa. That's excellent. That's a part of devotion, wanting to become like an enlightened master. So devotion is what we direct towards our Dharma masters. And he distinguishes the difference of respect and devotion. Respect is you want to learn from a teacher. And he uses the example of a teacher in school. And well, it's excellent to respect a teacher in a secular environment. When it comes to the Dharma, we want to not only have respect, but also the devotion. We want to learn from them, but we want to become like them. There also is devotion to the Dharma, to the words, the practices, and the teachings of the Buddha. And this is understanding and realizing that these have been handed down in an unbroken lineage by teachers and practitioners and have blessings. And that devotion was present throughout this whole process from the time of the Buddha to our teachers in the present time. So I guess what I'll do is, I don't know how many questions have come up already, but I'll open up to questions, and then I want to go into this exact prayer that we chanted. So if you would like to read the questions.
Sure. Only one question has come up so far. Justin asks, is there a third aspect of confidence that correlates to the Vajrayana?
Well, that is an interesting question. And he did not directly talk about that in there, but with Vajrayana, so I will add my own words here. With Vajrayana, it's a much stronger commitment. And with Vajrayana, you are viewing yourself ideally as an enlightened being. And you have a samaya commitment with your teacher, the teacher that gave you empowerments. And so it's a much stronger commitment. The teacher has a much stronger obligation to make sure that you might say, don't go off of the path into the brush or go backwards or develop wrong view and so forth. This is why Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche stressed a 3-year retreat, because there you had a much closer relationship with him, and that he could keep his eye on you more closely. So when we get into Vajrayana, and Taisita Rinpoche might be Karmapa, I forget who mentioned this just recently in a teaching, is where you are doesn't depend on the practice that you're doing. It depends on what's inside of you, your motivation, how you're looking at things, that you can be practicing Chenrezig, but you're actually on the foundation vehicle with your practice. So to kind of sum this up, on the Vajrayana level, this devotion is that you have made up your mind that your teacher is the one that you have this very strong commitment and courage to follow. And it is more of following your teacher and making sure that you are following your teacher and you have rid your mind of questions such as, are these teachings valid or not? Is this teacher a valid teacher? Could I go to some other teacher? It's like you have made a choice here, and it is a very, very strong commitment. And so it's having confidence in that commitment, confidence that this teacher is the one that you want to follow, and that you're kind of gone beyond the point of, well, should I or shouldn't I? You've already made that decision. This is what I'm going to be doing, and this is who I'm going to be following. So that is actually a good question. So unless there are more questions, I'm going to go to the Llama Rinpoche Ma prayer.
No more questions at the moment.
Okay, well then I will go to the prayer here, and this is attributed to Jamgun Khantrul the First. And so the first line is, "Precious Lama, I pray to you." That I pray to, and to flesh this out with more words, this is a quote from Taisita Rinpoche. I pray to and supplicate with devotion the precious Guru, the precious Master, end quote. So we're praying and supplicating with devotion. And supplication here means that we are earnestly asking, we're humbly asking for, then there are 7 things that follow what we are asking for with humility and in earnest. The first one is, bless me that my mind gives up ego grasping. And so what that means is, it might seem like it's impossible for us to give up ego grasping completely, but we are praying to be limitless. We are not being pragmatic here. We're not saying, well, help me give up ego grasping a little bit, or give up most of my ego grasping. That we are saying, help me give up completely ego grasping. We all have egos. We all have ego grasping. And we're asking here for help renouncing ours. And interestingly enough, he talks about good egos and bad egos. So he says a bad ego is one that is ruthless, or when you are being ruthless. And a good ego is being confident. Again, it is this confidence in our Buddha nature, confidence in our bodhicitta aspiration. There is the idea of primordial confidence, that the primordial nature of our mind has this primordial confidence. And this is confidence that is beyond ego. It is never feeling the need to prove yourself, never giving in to self-doubt, not motivated by competition, doesn't require success as validation. It is confidence that is beyond the 8 worldly concerns. In Vajrayana, there is the idea of Vajra pride, and that is keeping in mind that you are the deity, and that the outer environment is a pure land, and all beings in the outer environment are also deities. And so that's where this is going. We don't give up on this. We request help in being able to achieve this, to renounce our egos. The next verse is, bless me that contentment arises in the stream of my mind. And this is in Taisito Rinpoche's book, Ground, Path, and Fruition. On the version that we chanted, which is the KTD version, it is, grant your blessings that independence arise in our continuums. And Taisito Rinpoche says this is what this verse means, quote, may I realize the meaninglessness of worldly activities and worldly things, end quote. And when you see it that way, there isn't any difference between contentment and independence arise. That independence from the 8 worldly concerns, independence from grasping. We're requesting that we may be able to see that worldly things in general are basically meaningless. At the present time, we don't have independence because we are slaves to our pride, to our jealousy, our greed, our fear, our anger. When these arise in our minds, we are easily influenced by them, and frequently influenced to the point where they are controlling our actions of body, speech, and mind. They are meaningless because they can never be fulfilled or satisfied. That no matter how much you are able to engage in things that fill you up with pride, it's not enough. The next day, or perhaps even the next moment, you're still looking for more things to prove how fantastic you are, how great you are, and so forth. And it's the same way with any of these other things that I have talked about. No matter how much anger you vent towards a person that you're angry with, that doesn't reduce your anger. It just encourages you to be more angry in the future. It's strengthening the habitual pattern of being angry. If you're not happy before you get what you want, you are not going to be happy after you get what you want. At least you won't be happy for very long. And it's this way with all of our worldly concerns. And so independence means being able to let go of these things and seeing that they really are, you might say, imposters. That the more you have, just the more you want, and the more that you have, the more you worry about it. And then you need more insurance. And then you need this and that. And then if you become quite wealthy, then are the people around me really my friends? Or are they just after my wealth and after spending time with me? Because I always pay for the bills at the bar or whatever. So the next one is, bless me that non-dharmic thoughts may cease. And Tai Situ says this, quote, please bless me that all thoughts except the Dharma cease to exist in my mind. May my mind be totally occupied with these thoughts. End quote. So that is what is being requested here. And again, we're not being pragmatic. We're not asking, may they just kind of stop having quite so many of them? May I get a little gap here when I'm not having non-dharmic thoughts? But it's, may they cease entirely. So we are asking for the ultimate here, not just a little improvement. So we're asking for having thoughts of compassion, devotion, thoughts that help us develop wisdom, thoughts that lead us to, you might say, our own shrine room, our own place of practice and practicing, that lead us to the Columbus Center or going to KTD or whatever. That thoughts that lead us in the direction of the Dharma and to practice, thoughts of benefiting other people as well as benefiting ourselves. Now, frequently people think that in order for us to be good Buddhists, we have to be doing things that are beneficial to others. And of course, it's good to benefit other people no matter what you do. But the aspiration of bodhicitta is that may I practice, may I spend more time practicing and studying so that I can be more benefit to other people in the future. And so practicing, studying, attending teachings, and so forth are important. They're not being greedy. This is, you might say, good ego. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche once said, and it might have been in answer to a question, and it was about attachment. And he was asked about attachment to Dharma objects, objects of practice, tankas, statues, and so on and so forth. And he said, it's good, it's fine to be attached to these. Because again, our thoughts now are directed towards the Dharma. Now, if you're having non-dharmic thoughts about Dharma objects, like my statue is better than your statue, that's a problem. So, but if you have a pure heart about these objects of Dharma and they inspire you and you use them in your practice, then that is fine. Our commitment is to attain enlightenment and to do what is necessary to attain enlightenment. So we need to keep that in mind. And in order to do that, we have to, you might say, nurture ourselves. And I'm going to get into this more tomorrow with my talks. So then the next line is, bless me that my mind be realized as unborn. And Taisitu Rinpoche says, quote, please bless me to recognize and realize the immortal primordial essence of my mind, end quote. So that is what is being expressed in that line. Bless me that my mind be realized as unborn. We're asking the Lama's help to realize that. So this mind, what we call my mind, it's beyond birth and death. It can't be born. It can't die. It is beyond purity and impurity. It's limitless. It's incorruptible. It's beyond time and it's beyond location. This is what we're talking about here. And of course, since we haven't experienced it directly, we can only, you might say, try to relate to this through concepts. And sometimes it's very difficult, even with concepts, to have the confidence and the courage to realize that that is our mind. That this mind is always pure, it's always present, it's never stained. It's like a diamond in a coal mine. The coal mind, of course, being samsara. Now, ordinary beings think that samsara can be made into a diamond, that somehow or another we can perfect samsara. And they spend a lot of time, you might say, spinning their wheels, trying to at least make their life in samsara become like a diamond. And of course, it's futile. No matter how much wealth you have, no matter how much power you have, it doesn't work. You still suffer and you still die. But the Buddha knew that mind is beyond all of this, beyond birth and death, beyond good and bad, and so forth. And frequently it's called a wish-fulfilling jewel, because our minds, realizing their true ultimate essence, fulfills all of our wishes, because we go beyond suffering, beyond pain. So the essence of what or who we call I is Buddha essence or Buddha nature. It's the Dharmakaya. It is unoriginated primordial mind that is devoid of content. This is what's important, is that it's the unborn, devoid of content, but pure awareness. Are there any questions that have come up in the chat box?
No, no questions at the current time.
Okay, then I will keep on going. So the next line is, bless me that confusion may subside in its own place. And Taisito Rinpoche says this means, quote, bless me that all illusion comes to rest by itself, end quote. This is requesting that we see mind as it truly is, that the original essence is fully exposed, that our self-deception and our denial falls away. So what this really means is we are requesting that we realize that everything happening to us in the present, everything that has happened to us in the past, and everything that will happen in the future are, quote, perceptual illusions, end quote. That they are relative reality. And relative reality is based on comparisons. Short and tall, good and bad, hot and cold. I can tell you right now about hot and cold. Right now it is winter here where I live, and it's winter in Florida. And I got a picture from a Llama Losong, who's in Gainesville, Florida recently, and it was of koi in a pond there by the center in Gainesville. And he sent me that because I sent him a picture of snow and trees covered with frost, both taken basically the same day. It's winter in both places, but there seems to be a difference here, a comparison. And in samsara, in the relative world, everything is like that. That humans living in the same country, in the same city at the same time. I don't want to get too political here, but what's going on in the United States is a very good indication of that. That some people see things this way, some people see it that way, and it's like they're on two different planets. And this is the way relative reality is. And some people that are attending, they have cats. Other people have dogs. I know this. And a dog sees things differently than a human, and a cat sees things differently than a dog. And a cat sees humans differently than a dog, and so on and so forth. They're different perspectives. What happens is we tend to think that the way we see things is the way things are. And this is why people get in arguments, because I am right and you are wrong. You are not seeing things the right way. I'm seeing things the right way. If it was ultimate reality, it would be impossible to see things, you might say, so differently. We would see things more as like an illusion, like a rainbow in the sky, and so forth. So these perceptual illusions lead us to, we believe them, and they are due to our karma that we have accumulated through a countless series of lives, habitual patterns, and these determine how we perceive things. Again, a very interesting example is my mother, who passed away in 2014. But I can remember growing up with her that she was paranoid, and she was afraid of Black people, African Americans. At times, she had a cleaning woman that was Black, and she could come into the house. But basically, she was afraid of Black people. The same thing for Jews, and the same thing for Asians, and basically almost everybody, but these groups stood out. Well, the last maybe 8-10 years of her life, she developed Alzheimer's, and gradually her memory went. And as that happened, she became less paranoid, less afraid. She became happier because, of course, being afraid, being angry, it just creates unhappiness. But where it really got striking to me was when she moved into an Alzheimer's unit in a very good facility, by the way. And one of the head nurses there was from Africa. She wasn't African American, she was African. And by this time, Mom had become very happy. very kind, very loving. And when any of the staff members would come in, Mom would look at them and say, "Oh, honey, you're so sweet. I love you. Come here and let me hug you." She was in a wheelchair. Well, something happened, and it wasn't the outside. It was something that happened to her mind. She still had a mind. She was aware when someone would come into the room, but the fear wasn't there. Her judgment wasn't there. These things are all temporary, and it all, you might say, keeps us from experiencing the ultimate essence of our mind. So, let me see here. That's really the last verse in this prayer. And there were just a few other things that I wanted to comment on. Let's see, it's we've got about an hour and a half. Are there any questions at this point that have not been answered? It doesn't look like there are any. So maybe I will just kind of continue here on a related subject. And that is about the way we relate to our life in samsara. And the idea that what we are seeing is an illusion, that we are filtering what is out there through all kinds of judgments, habitual patterns, and so on and so forth. Taisita Rinpoche, in the book, he talks about reality as being perceptual illusions in terms of relative reality. And he uses money for an example. And this seems to be a very popular topic, that money is convenient when it comes to exchanges. But again, it's not solid. If you visit a foreign country, one of the first places you go to frequently is a currency exchange. If you trust the merchants in that country, then you might take a credit card. And then the credit card company will pay for it in the currency of that country, and then exchange the money for you and bill you in American dollars when your bill comes in at the end of the month. But there still is this currency exchange. If money was solid, you wouldn't need currency exchanges. It's that simple. And what is the value of it? It used to be American currency. You could get gold in exchange for it if you wanted to. Of course, that ended a long, long time ago. The value in terms of dollars to rupees or francs or Deutsche Marks or whatever, it varies during the day and from day to day, week to week, month to month, and so forth. The same thing for gold, diamonds, platinum, any other thing that would have value. It is constantly varying. These are not solid. So we need to look at money as a tool, not worship it as a god. And he also says it's important how we make money and to be aware of the karmic consequences of our actions, as well as the consequences for the people that are involved with us making money. Or, he didn't mention this, but I'm going to pass this on. When we spend money on products, today, much of what we spend money on is produced in other countries. And it's important to realize who is producing these things that we are spending our money on and the consequences for the people that produced the objects that we are buying. So actually there is another line here, and that is, bless me that all phenomenal existence be realized as Dharmakaya. And Dharmakaya is the ultimate, it's formless. Quote, relatively, there is wrong and right, but nothing is ultimately wrong. Ultimately, everything is right. End quote. The Tibetan word for Dharmakaya is everything visible and invisible. That here we are praying that we realize the ultimate essence of everything as Dharmakaya. And everything means everything. Not only sentient beings, but everything is Dharmakaya. And as a result of being Dharmakaya, that it's all perfect. Now, this also means that we look at the relative reality and realize at the level of relative reality, there are consequences for our actions, that karma operates in relative reality. And so we have to be careful of our actions in relative reality. And Gampopa said something like, well, my view is as spacious as the sky, my attention to detail is as fine as grains of sampa. So we keep this view of, may I realize that everything is Dharmakaya, but also realize that we are subject in the relative world to karma, and we want to avoid bad karmic consequences. We want to develop positive habitual patterns, and then as we progress, eventually even the positive habitual patterns fall away as we approach realization. And he kind of concludes this section on this prayer by saying, respect everyone and everything. And this is very good advice for today, because right now, at least in the United States, there is so much anger and resentment and so forth. And again, I'll be going into this more tomorrow. And he says, do good and avoid doing bad. And very simply, the 10 non-virtuous actions and the 10 virtuous actions are very simple explanations to determine the difference between good and bad. Know your strengths, abilities, and weaknesses. That is a very, very important. Get to know yourself very well and know where your weaknesses are and work on them. Know what your abilities are, how well you can work on your weaknesses, and so on and so forth. He says, associate with bad people only if you can help them. That if you can't help them, they will drag you down. And of course, we do not want to be, what would I say? We do not want to go down. We want to go up. So be careful with who you associate with. For those that you can't help, for those of you that you feel the need to stay away from because they may drag you down, then pray for them, dedicate merit for them. Do not hold on to anger and animosity towards these people. And finally, to finish up this talk, here is a quote that I really like of his. There is no such thing as ultimate badness, ultimate evil, or ultimate dirtiness. Ultimately, everything is perfect. So now, are there any questions, comments?
If you'd like to unmute, I believe everybody should have that capability as well.
I left you all speechless.
I have a question, Llama Yeshe. I've been kind of trying to balance something lately, which is that I think ever since the last several weeks when things have been so stressful politically and everything, I've been finding myself, I have a limit as to how many hours I can practice and devote to Dharma each day still, although I hope that keeps getting better. And so sometimes I'll indulge in watching TV at night and things like that. But I noticed that it sometimes it preoccupies, I get caught up in the stories and they preoccupy my mind. And so I'm trying, I was struck by what you were talking about first of all, knowing your weaknesses and also observing your mind and kind of seeing, I'm having trouble finding the exact spot in my notes, but the idea of, I would like to be able, rather than just avoiding it, to be able to cut through it. And so I'm wondering, I guess, I don't know if the only thing I can do is just try to observe my mind while it's happening and hope that that will start to unravel the attachment to getting caught up in the stories and thinking about them at other points in the day. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, well, it goes back to what you were talking about, knowing your limitations. And I have heard it put this way, that sometimes you need to go on a fast, a media fast. And, stay off of the news, stay off of Facebook, Twitter, or whatever. Quite honestly, I have hardly visited Facebook in months. after Rinpoche's parinirvana, I was posting on there regularly, and I was posting regularly before that. And I have just tried to stay off of that. I do keep up with the news, but yeah, if it keeps making your mind wilder and wilder, then it's not helpful. If it's helping you understand people, and your mind isn't so wild, where it's more likely to bring up compassion and understanding, then not a problem. But if you're going through your day where you are afraid, paranoid, or you're getting worked up and angry, like, how can they be thinking this? How can they be acting this way? These idiots, da, 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 da. Quite honestly, I read an editorial. I'm not going to tell you where it was, but the editorialist is noted for the editorials always having a note of satire in them, always. And those of you that know me know that I do like a little bit of humor, even satire. And she wrote one, might have been yesterday, and some people could have read that and just gone, oh, and just gotten mad. And it allowed me to laugh at what's going on in Washington right now. So anyway, it's knowing your limitations and try not to go beyond that. And if you go beyond that and find now that I'm going through the next day and I'm, time to take a fast.
I think that's right. Yeah. Yeah, I saw a funny meme the other day that said, I know I shouldn't be doom scrolling, but have you seen the quality of the doom lately? It's just grade A doom.
Yeah, and that is exactly what happens on YouTube and Facebook and whatever. You can just go one place to another, to another, to another. And if you're right wing, you're radicalized, and you've gone out and bought an assault rifle. And if you're somebody else, then you're thinking the world is going to hell. And so on down the line. That it's I like that doom scrolling. Yes. Yeah.
I will take your advice. Thank you. It was very helpful.
Yeah, I once had a person ask me about horror movies. When I watch horror movies, I sometimes have nightmares, and my answer was very simple: don't watch them. And right now, Washington is getting close to a horror movie or a disaster movie or a dystopian movie. And so I guess enough already. Any other questions or comments? You can unmute yourself if you need to talk.
Hi, Mama Yeshe. This is Justin. I had a question about the sacred outlook from the Vajrayana perspective with our world today and everything that's happening politically in the U.S. and with COVID internationally. Like, do you have any recommendations on how to enter that mindset of the sacred view or from Vajrayana?
Well, again, it really depends where you are in your practice. But in the Vajrayana, when you are doing a visualization, like in green Tara, white Tara, medicine Buddha, Amitabha, you kind of visualize, you're visualizing yourself as an enlightened being and the environment being a pure land, and you've got, it's full of deities. In some cases, you'll have a front visualization, which will be a mandala. Sometimes in the more elaborate practices, Chenrezi is a very simple lower level Vajrayana practice. This is why anybody can attend. But when you get into the more advanced practices, you visualize yourself as an enlightened being, and you're in a mandala here with other enlightened beings. And that's this idea of sacred view. And even at the end of Chenrezi, when you finish the dissolution, because just before you do the mantra repetition, then instead of visualizing him over your head, you're visualizing you have become Chenrezi. Then you do the mantra repetition and the visualizations, and then you dissolve everything, and you re-arise as Chenrezi, and then you imagine that all sound is the sound of mantra, and all beings are enlightened beings, and that it's a pure land. And that's this sacred outlook, or the pride of the deity. And little by little, as you progress, you're able to keep that at least in mind, if not constantly, at least keep reminding yourself of that. So that's where Vajrayana is going. And this is one of the reasons why Vajrayana is so powerful, that that the goal is the path. The goal is to become enlightened. And so the path is imagining ourselves as enlightened beings in an enlightened environment and surrounded by enlightened beings. And so it's an acknowledgement of our ultimate essence. It's also very easy to misunderstand that, and that's why it's frequently referred to as secret mantra. And that is why with the more, you might say, advanced practices, or many of the practices, that not just anyone can participate, that you need the empowerment, you need the reading transmissions, and it's good to have the instructions on how to do the practice, so that you do not develop wrong view about the practice or the practices in general. You've got a good Llama there. In fact, you've got at least two. You've got Llama Tom and you've got Llama Kathy. And for Vajrayana practitioners, they are there for you to go to them for guidance and help. Any other comments or questions? Well, Lama Kathy, do you have anything to say before we do the concluding prayers?
Yes, all I can say is thank you. I really appreciate hearing about this prayer, because this prayer has meant a lot to me, and since the Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche's passing, I think a lot of us have felt close to him in ways that we didn't before. And when I recite this prayer and think of him, it really brings back a feeling of gratitude, about having lived these amazing lives that we've lived. I mean, who would have thought it? Or as my mom used to say, who would have thunk it that that folks born on this side of the world would meet such remarkable teachers in our lifetime? I mean, it's mind-boggling. That what are the chances, as they say. So I'm really happy that when I heard you were going to share this, I was really thrilled about it. So thanks, especially for sharing those teachings from Situ Rinpoche. He has a really good way of explaining the relative and the ultimate in one go. He's so thank you.
Sure, yes. And I would agree with what you said about Rinpoche and my connection to him and how much gratitude I have towards him. And I met him at the Chicago KTC in 1988. A friend of mine who was not connected with KTD, but had met Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche through Vajradhatu, and had recently moved up to Eau Claire from the Chicago area. And he told me that Rinpoche would be in Chicago offering refuge, and he knew I was looking for refuge.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went down to Chicago without telling anybody. They had a piece of paper there if you want refuge, put your name on here. And I put my name on there, and look what happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And
Yeah.
like you, I have thought, what are the chances? It obviously has to do with karma. Mm-hmm. And then I can tell you this, that when I came to him, I was very dissatisfied with where I had been and was avidly looking for a new direction to go in. And of course, he showed me one. Mm-hmm. I will say this, that on the other hand, I do have some regret that I wasn't a better student.
Oh, yeah.
I always could have done better.
Right. Yeah.
But other than that, I have felt many different ways his presence after his parinirvana.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we're also fortunate because we are all benefiting from his activity in this country. Mm-hmm. We really are. And just always keep that in mind. Always keep that in mind. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go back to fundraising here briefly. And, since I can no longer make an offering directly to Rinpoche, when I feel inspired to make an offering to Rinpoche, I sometimes make an offering to the Columbus KTC Building Fund, because I know that this was extremely important to him.
Yeah, thank you. It's incredible, and I really do appreciate the gifts that you have made, and I'm really looking forward to you seeing it in person when all of these things have changed for us. When as you were saying earlier, as the COVID situation changes some months from now. I think it'll be a happy day when we can actually get together and sit in the place that he planned. It was so interesting. Kim tells this wonderful story of being there the day that the center burned. It burned in an arson fire in January of 2016, so that's 5 years ago now. And being on the telephone with Lama Karma Drodul, Khenpo Rinpoche's nephew, and Khenpo Rinpoche saying, "Don't be sad, rebuild. You just rebuild it." And she and everybody else took it to heart, and it's happening now. So it's like, thank you.
Yeah. So,
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh, I see. Thank you, Caitlin. She gave us if anybody is interested in contributing. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that.
yeah. Yeah, well, maybe this is a good time to end.
Okay.
And what we do on our Zoom meetings is the prayers that are at the end of Chenrezig, Amitabha. And does that seem like a good plan here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to grab mine. And we get to do the Lama Rinpoche prayer one more time, too. Om Swasti Rabjam Galway Kudan Yesheki Trin Le Gyam So Nam Tar Kyon Wei Wang Du Sum Kun Kien Gal Wang Karma Pe Sha Pe Ten Ching Zay Trin Ke Par Shok De Den Chengi Gon Po Nang Ta Ye Samshin no tsar trope do gargi ten pe gyal san dranki gargi wang sun me gon ma rim jon nam la du si ji mi pam zung juk dor je kur do ne drup kyang dak se tsul ton pa sham chen gyal wei do gar si tu pe Sha Pe Ten Shing Zay Trin Ke Par Shok Mon Pe Mun Jom Kan Ter Chok So Wa Jam Yang Non An Ten Pe Sok Ching Che Nig Me Gon Gur Jam Gon La Ma Ye Sha Pe Ten Shing Zay Trin Ke Par Shok Do Me Mi Shik Tig Le Chen Pot Sal De Tong Dor Je Gyar Ken Sang Wei Dak Gang Do Kornang Go Shri Gal Sa Pe Sha Pe Ten Ching Se Trien Ke Par Chok Nang Se Zil Non Jun Jir Rang Wan Jor Dor Je Kune Trien Le Kor Lo Gyor Pe Jung Non Ang Pal Den Pao Wo Che Sha Pe Ten Ching Zay Trin Ke Par Shok Se Pak Me Pe Ye She Gu Tro Ne Tap Ke Jap Yang Trin Le Lun Zok Pal Pen De Sa Lak Tre Ho Tro Pe Ku Sha Pe Ten Ching Zay Trin Ke Par Shok De Tar Mi Che Gu Pe Sol Tap Du La me jin lap sem la juk padang sang sum nam tar yon ten gam so yon tam che ma lu da ki kyon nu shok pen de pon sok ma lu jung wei go yao wei ten pa yun du ne padang de jin she dan dra pe du de kun Chu chu nam chu jawa kun pel shok Drel tok dak sok dro kun ju gi ne De che ning po lang so min gi bar Parche Nyer Tse Dri Yi Mag Gu Sheng Kao Zang Chu Den Sam Kun Lun Rup Shok Si Pe De Jor Dan Gi Mi Lam Jin Nok Chung Ning Po Me Pe Ton Tok Ne Nam Nur Dra Wei Dam Cho Dra Pa La Zo Me Zon Pa Chan Po Jut Yor Chik Rang Sam San Jay Yin Par Chak Cho Cheng Sam Ni Tong Tsalun Drup Rang Grol Du Tog Ne Kor De Re Do Kun Ral Te Chang Grol Dam Pa Un Yung Tok Yor Chi De Chen So Ki Kor Lo Tak Rol Pa Do Sum Yahweh Ter Chen Karma Pa Yap Se Gyu Par Che Pe Tsi Tso Der Kalpa Kalpe Bar Du Jap Ten Sol Gangi Zat Sang Sung Gi Sang Wala Do Sam Drupe Ning Por Je Pa Ye Pong Dang Lok Pe De Nam Tam Che Ne Yargi Chu Wo Ta Bur Ke Gyor Chi Lama Rinpoche La Sol Wa Dep Tak Chin Lo Yi Tong War Jin Ge Lop Go Me Gyu La Ke War Jin Ge Lop Cho Min Nam Tok Gak Par Jin Ge Lop Rang Sem Ke Me Tok Par Jin Ge Lop Tro Pa Rang Sar Chi War Jin Ge Lop Lam Si Cho Kor Tok Par Jin Ge Lop Lama Ku Kan Zang War Sol Wa Dep Chok Tu Kut Se Ring La Sol Wa Dep Trin Le Dar Sing Ge La Sol Wa Dep Lama Dang Drel Wa Me Par Jin Ge Lop Paul Den Lama Ja Pe Ten Padang Kan Yam Yon La De Ki Jung Wa Dang Dak Chen Ma Lu Suk Sap Drip Chang Ne Nur Du San Jay Sa La Go Par Shok Sanjay Kusum Ne Pe Chien Lap Dang Choni Min Gur Den Pe Chien Lap Dang Yen Dun Mi Che Dun Pe Chien Lap Ki Che Tar No Wa Mon Lam Drup Yor Chik Chang Pal Pa Wo Che Tar Ken Pa Dang Kun Tu Zang Po De Yang De Jin Te De Da Kun Gi Je Su Tak Lo Cheng He Wa De Da Kam Che Rab Tu No Du Shi Le Gao Gao Wei Trien Le Pam Karma Pa Ten Ten Pe Ning Po Di Chok Tar Kun Kyap Kya Ching Yun Mi Che Tak Para Pel Pel Wei Ta Chi Sho. Well, that completes our session this evening. I'm very, very pleased here to be with all of you. And looking forward to tomorrow. So have a good evening and get a good night's sleep. And don't forget to pet your dogs and your cats because they need it.
Thank you. Thank you,
Lama
Lama.
Yeshe.
Thank you, Llama.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you, Lama. Thank
Thanks,
you,
everybody.
Caitlin.
See you
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.